We have planted our yams for about 4 to 6 weeks now. And like, as you can see all around, we have started having germinations. Some of them have started climbing the stakes. We've done everything necessary. But there's something we need to do, because ideally we are supposed to ensure that we have 100% germination. But at times, after you have done all you can, you still see that there are some that would not match up with their mates. For example, we can see that these ones have started germinating and following stakes. But you will see something like this, not even showing any sign of germination. But you need to ensure germination to be 100%. Now, how do you do this? There's a practice you should always do in your yam farm, whether you are for commercial yam farming or even the one you plant at your backyard in bags, whichever, whether in the heap or in bags. You must ensure that you go through to do this one practice, that is to check for the viability of those you are perceiving not to have germinated. That is what this video is all about today, and I'm going to be showing you what I do from time to time to ensure that at the end of it all, I'm having 100% germination. Why this is necessary is because we've done so much to create heaps or fill sand or soil, so to speak, in bags. You need to ensure that all those efforts, they are not in vain. So sit back as we do what we do best. So guys, this is a heap that I have noticed. I have not seen any sprouting from any of them. I have not seen here and I have not seen here, but the rest that we planted the same time, it's about, in fact, they've already started climbing the stakes. So it is important we check, and how to check is what I want to show you. Usually there could be delay. Normally we should have sprouting about 4 weeks, maximum about 6 weeks, as far as the yam that you are planting has already broken dormancy. Now that we are having this situation, it's either of two things. It's either there is a delay in germination or there is no germination at all. If there is no germination at all, it means the seedling you planted is not viable. So we are going to check. Now, the way I like to check, I want you to look at it carefully so that you will not, because peradventure you are having a sprout that is delayed. If you just open without care, it will end up breaking the sprout because there might be delay, as I've said. So I normally use my fingers with my glove fingers, I just go around. This is the length of the seedling I planted. I will just go around instead of just doing it anyhow that will break the sprout. Now that I've gone around, I'll try and excavate my planted seedling and examine. From what I can see here, there is no sign of sprout, even if it seemed as if it broke dormancy before I planted. But sometimes certain things just happen to them, maybe heat or whatever. They will just not be viable. So let's check this. From what I can see, of course, you can see that this is already damaged. This is bad. There's no way this could have germinated. So what I end up doing is to just remove and repair this. I'll repair this heap again and replace. I'll just go around and check all my farms. The reason I do that is because if I have 500 heaps, at the end of the day, I want to be sure that I still have 500 heaps when I'm harvesting. So this is an important practice you should always do. The question is, when should you actually do this? You can do this anytime from 4 to 6 weeks, maximum 8 weeks of planting, because some may have delayed germination. For example, there are some now, I will just look for one to show us, where although it has not sprouted or gotten to the extent of the others, but there was a form of delay. So we'll check that, but this one is condemned, so I'll have to replace this one. Thankfully, I have enough seedlings to replace this with, so that at the end of the day, I have 100% at harvest. So let's check the other one. Guys, this one, we'll just look, like I described earlier, be careful, just start to excavate from side. Okay, like this one now, I'm seeing roots. So it's a sign that this one obviously will still germinate, even if it has not germinated before now, or it has not sprouted out. So there's still a possibility that because that one root is a sign, okay, there's another root here. So that's why I normally go from side. So with this, I'm very careful with the top, so that if anything is coming out, okay, fine, see, okay, this is it now. This is sprout that is going to come out later. So this seed, even though it has not sprouted fully, it is coming out. So I have hope with this. I will just cover up, unlike the other one that we have seen before. That one we'll remove that one. There are two ancient practices, traditional practices, that have been helping to improve yield in yam farming that we are going to be talking about today. The first one is twining, and what that means is using rope to connect all your stakes. You are going to see the importance of that. Let's go. Okay, this is the twine that we have used to connect all our stakes on the same line. Remember, when we were making these stakes, we put them all on the same line, connecting 4 hips to one stake. Now what we do is to connect all the stakes using this particular twine. Now the importance of this twine is to help us get the leaves to spread out, so that it can get extra sunlight for it to manufacture more food and get stored in the tuber. This has a way of improving your yield. Now let us show us this is just an example. Let us show us how we can use this. Okay, so this is the essence of this twine that we have used. Now you can see that the twine is enabling us to spread out more of the leaves. For example, this is a branch from the main, a vine that is branching out from the main yam plant. So I'm going to do this now. I'll just take it around the rope so that it gets spread out. That way it will get more sunlight to produce more food, and of course it will make your farm very, very neat. This is a way to also improve yield. That's the number one. But quickly, let us talk about the ropes that are usually better for this kind of procedure in the farm. So there are two kind of twines people normally use. I'll show you both of them, but I'll tell you the one I prefer. People either use this, they use this, a stick, and the quantity is not so much, and people use this. Initially I was using this, but I found out that before the season elapses, this will just collapse. It will start breaking, so it will expire. So it doesn't last the whole season, and the quantity is not much, and unfortunately they are even more expensive compared to this. But this one is normal nylon fishing twine. This is the one I use. So I realized that it's very durable. It can last more than 1 year, so far more than 1 season, and the quantity is quite much. Only this one I'm holding now can take an acre of yam farm comfortably, or close to an acre. But this one, you need plenty of them to be able to achieve this. So I prefer using this fish twine. They come in different colors. This is the black one now, but this is the white. You know, for some reasons I just prefer the white, and they are graded. They're in numbers. There is number 9, but this is number 12. I'm not advertising any rope, but then this is the one that has been very, very useful for me. So I would advise you use this. I want you to know that the best time to tie your twine to do your twining, to tie your twine to your stake, is when your vines they've not grown, they are just coming up. So immediately you stake, just tie your twine. And if you are tying your twine, just make sure you do it in such a way that you can still, go around your farm is still accessible. Everywhere is accessible. You can still maneuver in your farm so that they will not become obstacles. So what I do will just be all my stakes that are on the same line, I will just tie from beginning to the end and I'll interrupt. Then the next I will just do like that, just on that one line. I would want to cross from one particular line to the other. So that is the best way, so that you can always be going around your farm without any hindrance. So that's the best thing to do. So take note, use your rope, do your twining immediately after staking, before your vines will grow, because once your vines they start growing and you are now twining, it is very, very difficult, except you have some projections that you can just anchor the twine to. But if you don't have that, or the best thing to do, just do your staking and then you do your twining. You already know the importance of the twining. So let's go to the second ancient practice that is very key. Guys, the number 2 ancient practice is vine training and vine dressing. I'll combine them together so that you understand better what I'm saying. Now, when we talk about vine training, it means your vines must be trained to follow what you want them to do. Ideally, yam vines are very good climbers, but they need to be put in the right direction for them to climb. Sometimes you don't even have to do so much. Unlike maybe potato vines where you have to be directing the vines every now and then. But for yam vines, once you train them to go to one direction, they will very likely follow. Let's take some demonstrations. I have uploaded some videos before now. Where I talked about timing. I'll put the video at the link at the end of this video and several other links in the bio below. But I want you to understand something. The most important thing you need to do when it comes to staking is to stake on time. You stake when your yams, they are just coming out, or they have not even come out, they have not even germinated. It's better so that when your vines come out, they will just get a stake to follow. We've talked about that before. But unfortunately, sometimes you could just have a situation like this where you did not stake on time, or probably you did not come to do this practice on time. All you will see is entanglement of vines. I need to get these vines, to train these vines to follow this stake, this very stake. But I did not come on time, and this is what has happened. But you have to carefully untangle all these vines. It's usually challenging. One of the ways to avoid this, or the major way to avoid this, is to make sure you do this on time and you visit your farm on a regular basis, because once these things they start to grow, they are usually very fast. You can see I'm being very careful. I hope I don't get to break any of them. So I'm going to untangle them. The first thing to do is to try and study how they are all tangled up or muddled up. Then you now try to untangle and train the vines to follow the direction. Like I will always say, it's like raising kids. You really need to train them. When you are not there, most times they just go their own way, and that might be disastrous for them eventually. So that's just on a lighter note. All right, so as you can see, I've done my best to untangle all of them. I've entangled all of them. So this is the vine now. Now I need to train this vine to be able to follow this stake. That's exactly what we're talking about. So what I do is to just look for a way. Okay, take them. Now that I've untangled them, wait a bit. Okay, fine, I've untangled. I'll take them around the stake. Now this is more like you're training the vine to follow the direction. Now, of course, if you are training, you need to know the direction. I've uploaded the video before. I'll put the link below. How your vines must always follow a clockwise direction. If you don't do that, it will have its own consequence. All right. So I will post the link below I've already trained this vine. Now it's going to follow and then climb up. Now this is the first stage of course, training this vine. The next is to do a form of vine dressing, which is the second part of this vine training. Now let's demonstrate that. So guys, if you have started training your vines to follow the stake, the next thing you should try as much as possible to do is always come around to dress your vine. Now, what I mean by dressing your vine, this vine, of course, the major one will go up. There will always be some branches that will just branch around. You don't want them to be all scattered around. The reason is this: if you don't come to point to dress them, to train them to follow the twine or to follow the right path, they will end up connecting others and probably even obstructing the pathways that you have created in the farm. So from time to time, every 2-3 days, you just come around and note the one that is going out of place and put them in the right direction. You could just take, you know, any one, this lateral one, you just, you know, take them in a clockwise direction to follow your twine. You can even fold them inwards. That way you are dressing them such that eventually with time the canopy will be formed. Now this is very important for the first 3 months of your yam farming, because that's when the vegetation will really, you know, come up, the vegetative stage. So that's very important. You wouldn't want any vine to be dangling. Just make sure you dress them properly, train them in the right way so that they will follow. This is very crucial in yam farming, because that way you'll be able to put all your vines together and they will be able to blossom very well. So we have said in this video that there are 2 major traditional practices that have been helping. One is to make sure that you put your twine, and secondly, from time to time you go train and then dress your vine. This is our yam farm, and we have done our weeding about twice now, and this is about the 5th month. To be frank with you, this is an aspect of yam farming that is a little bit stressful, and it's something that we need to pay attention to. But I have done weeding twice, but as you can still see, they've come up again. In this part of the country, we have very fertile soil, so we have to really contend with weed for our crops to do very well. But let me show you something. I've started weeding again for the 3rd time. We did a video some time ago, and we're talking about timing of events in yam farming to maximize profit. So I've started weeding again for the 3rd time, but I must confess it's quite capital intensive. This is an aspect that needs attention. But the thing is this: I don't want to be using herbicides. To a very large extent, I care for the soil. I'm an advocate of, you know, taking care of the soil very well. But weed is also a problem. And I'm a commercial yam farmer. How do I contend with all this? And I'm sure you out there, especially for the commercial yam farmers, you have this kind of challenge. So we need to solve this problem where we have to contend with weed, and we also want to care for the soil. So what do? I started an experiment. So that's what I want to show you, and that's what this video is all about. So let's get started. So guys, I started an experiment. I started to do an experiment with cover crops. I've learned that cover crops, they help to suppress weed and to also increase soil fertility. But the experiment started, let's say, from here. In this place, I harvested potatoes, and you remember there was one potato in sack that I did. I harvested the potatoes and I left the vines here, so they started germinating on their own. And of course there was also weed coming up, but I decided to see how this will go. So I did not even bother so much to remove the weed, and the potato vines, they started growing. But what I noticed was that the amount of weed was relatively reduced, So that I said to myself, it is possible that I can use this to do my yam cover crops. So I now went to my farm, a segment in my yam farm, to start this experiment that I noticed here. This was just an observation, but let's go to see how it has helped me. I decided to start using cover crops in certain areas of my farm just to actually do an experiment. There are several crops that can be used as cover crops. We have melon, the one we popularly call a egusi around here. We have sweet potatoes and some other creeping crop. But the two major ones I want us to look at today, melon / watermelon or sweet potatoes. But what I've used here is sweet potatoes, and I'll tell you the reason why I chose sweet potatoes. Now, as you can see, this is the same farm where we are having to weed 3 times, but I'm not going to even bother weeding here anymore, because the cover crops, the potatoes I'm having here, there are just a few I put just in between the yams, and look at how they are spread all around. And as you can see, we have very limited amount of weed here. If you look down, you see that they have shaded all these small weed that they cannot even come up again. But of course, it's not 100% stuff. You can still have 1 or 2 stubborn ones that will just spring out. But the beautiful thing about that, you can just handpick those ones and bring them out. Well, it's still something that I'm experimenting on, but what I've seen so far is quite encouraging. It's quite amazing. Now, the interesting thing about these potatoes, they are very cheap to obtain. The advantages, they are very cheap to obtain, and they are very resilient. They are very durable. Another crop you can compare to this is the melon. Well, I posted a short video recently and somebody was saying, well, instead of potatoes, you can use melon. Yes, you can. But I have a reservation with the issue of melon, because my experience with melon, we'll talk about that one in subsequent video. My experience with melon is that it takes about 3 to 4 months and it will just die off and dry off. And of course, after completing the cycle, even though potatoes will take 3 or 4 months to produce tubers, the vines can grow all around the year. If you leave them somewhere, they will germinate and start spreading. Even when you don't intend them to even grow, they will just start spreading. So the spread is helping me. It's helping me cover my soil, and it's also helping me add fertility to the soil. One other advantage potato has over melon is that once melon starts spreading, although it will cover, no doubt, but the challenge you will have is that once they start flowering and they start fruiting, you are not expected to be moving inside. But for potatoes, you can move anyhow inside the farm. You may compress some vines, within 1 or 2 days, they will just rise up again like the phoenix from the ashes. They will just rise up and they will start doing their thing. So I really like potato, but there's a slight disadvantage. I will also still say it, because it's more like weighing the pros and cons between potatoes and melon. So the major disadvantage that potato has is that potato is a tuber crop and yam is also a tuber crop. There is always that tendency for competition, the nutrients in the soil. For example, this whole vine that I spread, this is the origin where I planted. So hopefully I'm going to get the tubers from here with time. But that's not just the problem. Sometimes these vines can grow, climb on top of the heap, and now also form tubers elsewhere. For example, let's see this vine. Okay, so this is a heap for yam, but one vine just crossed the heap. It's not just crossing, it extended a root down and is very close to the root of the place where the tuber of the yam is going to form. So it is going to also form tuber here. This is another one. So to a very large extent, there will be competition, and this is a a major disadvantage. For melon, it doesn't have that. Melon is not a root crop. You can plant it anywhere and it will just spread and form fruit eventually, or even watermelon. But then the disadvantage of melon that this potato has advantage over is when the leaves, they are dried up and your fruits are formed, the whole area, the whole garden, the whole farm will be laid bare. And don't forget that the leaves would have added fertility to the soil. And so before you know it, weed will just spring up. And so one of the things that people do is that after they have removed all the fruits of the melon, they now start weeding their farm again. You don't have that with potato. Potato can grow all through the year, so you don't have that problem of it now dying off. Even when you don't want it to grow, it will keep growing. So that is why I prefer potato as a cover crop. But I want to know what you think. I really want to know what you think. I want to know what you have experimented on. We have just considered mainly potatoes and we have considered melon as cover crop. I'm still going to experiment more. I'm looking forward to a situation whereby I have to plant potato and melon on the same farmland and see how they will actually do. Maybe we'll give you feedback later. About 3.5 months since we started this yam farm, and it is important we bring you some updates. That is why we are here this morning. This is how my yam farm is now. You can see how beautiful they are. You remember this place that we planted our seed yams? All these places that you are seeing, they are seed yams. And of course, the taller ones are the yams. We have both the white yams as well as the water yams, all planted here. But I've decided to bring us updates today because it is important you know what we are doing and the progress report. But as for you that you've been following me, I really appreciate that, and I'm sure you have learned quite a lot from us. But I want you to do something for me. I want to know the stage of yam farming that you are in currently. I would appreciate if you can send pictures, and if you want, with your permission, we can post it on our community page for others to also see and get encouraged. Whether you are a commercial yam farmer like me or you are a backyard gardener that plants yam, I cover both and I can help you. Whatever challenge you are going through right now, just let us know. We'll be able to offer help. If we can't, we'll reach out to people who can help you. So that's an opportunity you should leverage on. So let's get started on what we have today. So guys, in one of our videos, I talked about the use of long stakes as one of my secrets for getting large tubers. If you're a commercial yam farmer, of course you want to grow large tubers so that you can make money. Now, this is the reason why I love using long stakes. Check out this particular stake. It's far over 15 feet tall. You can see that the vines, they've gotten to the top and they even went further. Now, this one was another stake that I extended at some point there. You see the extension, the vines, they've climbed up to that. So almost all over my farm, you see very long stakes and the vines, they've all gone up. This is one of the things that I do to make sure I get large tubers. With time, they will form very thick canopies. For example, let's see some of these ones that have formed very, very bushy canopies. All right. For example, this one now, there are several ones that are connected, but of course the stakes were very long and they form very bushy canopies. That's one of the things. And I'm very, very certain that they are going to do very, very well. That's one of the updates I want to bring to you. Another one, you remember when we were talking about cutting cost, we made mention of the fact that you plant your seed yams alongside with your yam. That is, you can portion them, but you can also have them all on the same heap, both your yam and your seed yam. This is an update on that. I told you that all you need to do is to just plant it by the side. This is the seed yam why this is the yam. So what's happening here now, I didn't bother to stake this one. All I needed to do was for the seed yam to just follow the yam, and of course you can see that it has gone. It will go as long as it can, and at the end I will harvest both the seed yam, the yam and the seed yam, depending on what I want to do with them. That's one of the ways I cut costs. There are other ways to cut costs. You know, that video was a part 1, so let's make this more like a little bit of the part 2. Now, one of the ways I cut costs is to plant some other crops alongside with my yam. If you look at this maize, but it's old now, I've harvested. All right, now what I have done, I've harvested the first batch of maize within about 70 days. Of course, this farm is just about 3.5 months or thereabout, a little above 3 months. I've already harvested my maize, and I made some money, recovered some money to at least take care of the cost for weeding. But that's not just all. There are other things you can plant. You can plant pepper, and some persons also plant things like melon, even watermelon. Some plant cucumber alongside with the yam, and it will just follow the same stick. I have done that, but they're on the other portion of the farm. That's a discussion for another day. But one thing I also want to bring to your notice is this. You can plant maize twice. I have planted and I've harvested the first batch. These are some of the remnants you are seeing here. But this is the second batch I planted. This is the second batch. They've just started coming up. So I'm planting maize twice. And of course, I'm going to realize some production cost from the other maize. So that's one of the ways you can also cut costs in your yam farm. There are a lot of things that we're also going to bring to your notice. Let's go to the other side. The next important update I want to bring to us is on weeding your farm. One of the major problems in yam farming that will reduce yield is not weeding on time. It's very important you do that now. Now, this my yam farm, as it stands now, I've done weeding twice, and this is just the first 3 months, because I don't want any weed to compete with my yam. If you look around now, it looks relatively neat. Let me even tell you, you can still find some weed around. This one is even after weeding twice. Now, of course, you see this part, because we just started weeding for the second time now. You see this part, we've already done first weeding. Now we are doing the second one. Now, what I want to tell us about weeding is that there are two schools of thought. For very large farms, people will prefer to use chemical method, spray the farm, and of course get the weed out of the way. But for backyard farms and farms that are not so large, some other persons will just employ people to weed the farm for them. I want you to understand that that choice will be yours eventually. For me, I kind of prefer to do manual weeding because I don't want the chemical to touch any part of my crop. I don't want to lose anything. And sometimes, you know, some of the roots can be exposed. I don't want the chemicals to touch. That is why sometimes I prefer to use areas where I know are very sensitive. I do manual weeding. Now, in doing manual weeding, there are several ways. Some persons use hoes. Now, for me, I fabricated this instrument. Although I pay people to do that, I have staff, I have workers. But I just wanted to show us this. If your farm is not so large and you want to do the weeding, one of the best ways you can just do it yourself. This is one of the instruments I love. It's a hoe, but it's a very long one. I don't have to bend down because of waist pain. I don't want waist pain. So I'll just use this. It's a hoe, but the secret is this: let your this pipe be light, and of course you bevel the working surface so that it will be convenient for you. For example, let's just do this. So you see that it is very convenient. I don't have to bend down, and before you know it, I have done quite a lot. To weed this line wouldn't take me a few minutes. And so I'll just get it all done. All right, now this is just to demonstrate. You can see this part now. In a few seconds I've been able to, you know, with this. So you can just do that and continue. Now, one thing you should know about weeding is this: when you weed, you don't need to remove the weed. You just remove the sand so that it won't regeminate again, but leave the debris all around your heap. The reason is this: it will decay and add to the soil what it has taken. So it's a win-win situation for you. You are not losing anything really. So weeding is very, very key in your yam farm. The next thing I want to talk about is foliar fertilizer application. This is the time that is very crucial for you to apply foliar fertilizers. There are a lot of them out there, and I use quite a number. I have different types that I love to use. Mainly, I love organic ones. And again, if you are watching this video and you are into manufacturing of foliar fertilizer, you could partner with us so that we can do some reviews for you and give you updates, at least an opportunity for our audience to also know your product. So we are ready for partnership. Now, you can see the vines are looking very beautiful. I apply a lot of foliar fertilizers. Again, I use organic manures a lot. I have a pit where I dump all of them, and all through the year I always have them so that I can apply at certain times. Now if you can see, these leaves, they are looking far darker than these other ones. Of course, it also tells the age. That's a discussion for another day, where we'll have to tell you the different variations in color and how you can, to a very large extent, guess the age of your. So if you have not subscribed, it's an opportunity for you to do, because you will be learning quite a lot from us. So the foliar fertilizer application is very key. For you that use NPK, it's also the time to use your. We've uploaded videos on how these fertilizers can be applied, either organic or inorganic. Check our playlist on everything you need to know about yam farming. We have them all there. So this is 3 months. It's a very crucial time. For some of these yams now, they are already producing tubers, obviously, and you need to feed them at this crucial time. We've uploaded videos on timing, on how to know the things to do at different times. So do well to look at those videos if you have not looked at them. So foliar fertilizer, if you are not applying, try and get some and use them to make your yam give you a very, very good yield. Let's go for some other updates. So this is the staking update I want to give to us. This stake got broken, and of course there are yam vines that have already climbed even to the top. Unfortunately for me, I did not come on time to discover that it has broken. So what happened was that all the vines climbed to the other stake that it rested on. Ideally, I wanted to just reposition it by digging another stake hole. But when I tried to remove it, I discovered that it was already attached to the other stake. This kind of situation, there's no need for you to remove it again. You could just leave it and it will just continue that way. But if you discover on time, that is why it's very important. Once there is heavy downpour or heavy wind, you should go around your farm to see if the stakes are okay. So if anyone is broken, you can just quickly remedy the situation before the vines start to climb on others. So it is very important you always go around your farm to note that. There's one more tip I want to give us, very crucial. I left that last one for the end of this video. Let's go there. Now guys, this is a crucial update I want you to take note of. During heavy downpour or very heavy rains, your heaps, the rain will begin to wash them down, and you have exposures of the tubers that are being formed with roots being exposed. Now this is very important. You need to make sure that the roots are covered. And so this very last practice I want to talk about today is covering the exposed forming tuber or roots with soil during the yam season. It's very key. For some, traditions, there is a specific name they won't give to it, and I'm sure for yours too. There are two options to this to cover. Now, it's either you take your planting hole and tip up, of course, soil around the heap and put back, because that's the soil that was lost. But for me, I'm very, very skeptical about that. The reason is this: these yams that you can see here, they all have their roots around here. So, for example, if I tip this now, very likely I'm going to, encounter or cut roots. Like you can see, you see this root now, I have just cut it. And of course, that root is very important to this. You see some of the root now, to this developing yam. I don't like doing this, but this is what most people do. I really don't like doing this. I'll just take the pain to go elsewhere, get soil in my wheelbarrow or whatever means of transport I use. I just put my soil there, get soil from another portion, and do same instead of me taking soil from here. Because if I take from here, I will still end up destroying roots, and those roots, they would have helped to make the yam develop more. So this is a crucial practice that you should try as much as possible to do.